Welcome back to Q&A with S&A. I'm Andrea.
And I'm Shane.
And today we are joined in the studio by Gus McLennan, co-founder and CEO of Propella.ai. And Gus is a very cool person. I don't know if he's a very cool person in real life. I'm assuming he is because he does cool stuff as part of his job. But Gus and his team at Propella help businesses utilise AI, which is all the rage at the moment, and to automate and streamline their operations and processes. And we've been working with Propella and your team for maybe, the last 8 months-ish?
Yeah.
Working on something that is really cool that we are pretty proud of, not because we did it, but because you did it for us, which is our AI assistant, which is called Wise Guide. We call it Wise Guide. You guys
name.
Yeah, you guys have a more proprietary name for it. What do you call it when you're selling your Propella Wise
Gus
Guide?
first.
I did welcome him.
Yes.
Yeah, no, thanks.
What do you call it,
intro.
Gus? What do you call it?
So internally we call our AI platform Sidekick.
Yeah, which is also a cool name.
Yeah. We, of course we asked AI kind of what some of the options were because AI, one of its superpowers really is, ideation and coming up with creative things. And we sort of landed on Sidekick. It was going to be Wingman, but then we went, oh no, that's, that sort of doesn't sound gender neutral.
Yeah.
And
But Top Gun reference.
there was
Cool.
there was some Top Gun stuff in there. But no, we sort of landed with Sidekick and so that's the platform that we've sort of been developing probably over the last 2 years.
Yep.
We sort of started working on that with another professional services firm that we sort of work very closely with. And then it got to the end of last year and we got to the point where we could now white label that particular platform and offer it up to other companies like yourself who can basically personalize it to some degree and give it their own name and basically have it operating in your own environment, which is sort of one of the key points of differentiation we see.
It is. So Propella.ai, which is Propella, we just call you Propella. I don't know whether you guys do that as well. What was the motivation behind that? Where did you come from to get to a point where you said, this is what we have to focus on?
So we've been running for about 7 years. We started life as a geospatial analytics business, which is a fancy way of saying we work with a whole bunch of data that you put on maps. And so pretty much all of our customers owned property and wanted to understand how those properties were being used. And so over the years, we've sort of developed a whole bunch of sort of data engineering and data science expertise in that particular domain. But we got to 2020, the start of 2023, ChatGPT sort of dropped. Yep. And all of a sudden, I had one of those sort of aha moments where, you actually sort of look at this magical new tool that comes out. I actually remember sitting in a room and we were looking at ChatGPT. We got access to it, and we all sort of said, "Well, what sort of questions should we ask it?" And somebody said, just ask it, what are the key aspects that you should be thinking about if you're doing a valuation on a commercial office property? And we put it in and it started generating all of this text. And the property director who sort of sat next to me kind of looked at and his jaw dropped and he kind of went, that just basically told you, Gus, what I've been trying to teach you for the last 5 years. It was just, it was one of those sort of magical moments. Yep. And after that, we just said, listen, we need to lean into this. And then at the same time, Blue Rock, who's sort of one of our sort of related entities, came to us and said, Peter, the CEO, came and said, I want to invest in this heavily. Can you build us our own internal version of this? Yeah. So that was sort of the genesis for us.
Yeah. And if you hadn't have had that relationship with Peter at Blue Rock, and I know they won't mind us talking about them because they really were the ones that were instrumental in saying, Gus, build us this tool. If they hadn't have come to you with this idea, do you think you would have gone, professional services firms need this sort of product? Or was it something where you said, this guy has asked me to build him a product, and then all of a sudden you went, holy crap, this has got practical application for a whole bunch of businesses outside of this one that we're building it for?
Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting question. I think there's no doubt we would have ended up in this particular space, but possibly not so much in that professional services space. We might have ended up going much more down a path of building out AI solutions for property. And we still do that to some degree, but that is that is a pretty narrow field. Building the sort of AI, sort of foundational AI platform for the likes of accounting firms and law firms. There's a very broad sort of set of use cases there, and the market just ended up being a lot bigger. And so for us, that sort of it made more sense.
Yeah. And the team that you've got with you, obviously you benefit from the fact that they are people from professional services too, right? So a couple of the team members are, lawyers, accountants, that sort of stuff. So the ideas are based around, you can sit down with them and say, what would you use it for if you were sitting down as an accountant typing in questions and things like that. So
yeah, but I think we still rely a lot more on our customers to help sort of drive and inform, some of the assistance that we've defined. But we still, there's some assumed knowledge in any of these sort of conversations, and even now, like we're working with an accounting firm at the moment, and I still literally had Peter sit me down and another analyst yesterday and take us through the external audit process. Just because we're looking at all these spreadsheets. Where we're going, well, we're trying to build an AI solution here, but I'm trying to reconcile those numbers there and the trial balance, and there's when you're implementing AI solutions for people, there's you kind of forget the fact that there is still a lot of understanding of underlying processes that sort of need to be sort of defined and set before you can say, okay, well, this is now let's see how we can apply AI to sort of help improve.
It's funny, I was thinking, because you don't ask AI to then help you build the AI for
what should I do with it?
You need to go back to the basics.
You do a bit though.
Yeah.
You can a bit, but it's still sometimes really good to have a human explain some of this stuff as well.
Yeah.
Particularly audit when it's a bit dry. And
that would be super fun. Yes. So let's talk a little bit then about the tool that you've built, so Sidekick, who we call Wise Guide, and why it's important, because there's lots of AI options out there, and standard businesses can use all sorts of different options. There's hundreds and hundreds of different things that you can use, and lots of product that is building AI into its capability anyway. But our particular version, and when you and I spoke about it some time ago, when you were in the Blue Rock office and we were doing a conversation, and we realised, Aintree Group are really similar to Blue Rock, just like a much smaller scale, really. The concept behind it. So we've got all of our data sitting in our Microsoft environment, and we do use Microsoft. That's what our basis is. And you can't just throw an AI tool on top of all of those things and hope that your data is secure, right? There's a process behind it, and that's one of the reasons why we partnered with you guys, because you understand that. It's not just like, oh, come and stick an AI tool and this is going to be so fun, and then all of a sudden data is floating around in the universe. What makes the Sidekick thing unique in that respect?
Well, so again, we sort of followed sort of Blue Rock's lead here, and their sense was that they wanted to make sure that they had a platform where all of the staff, were using the one platform. They needed to make sure that and have confidence that any documents, particularly sensitive, client-related information, could be freely uploaded into that platform, and know that none of that information was sort of leaking out of the organisation. So basically, to be able to support that, we needed to be able to build something within the Azure environment, Microsoft Azure, up in the cloud for Blue Rock. But the other reason why building an internal AI application kind of had benefit too is that it basically meant that we were building a custom application, and that meant that we could manage the user experience, we could build our own features, and almost as importantly, I think they were able to brand it the
Yep.
same way you guys are. And so, Blue Rock, they called their platform Ask Dwayne. And, it's the hero image has got, Dwayne The Rock Johnson with,
Yeah.
with Peter's face kind of morphed in. And basically, they were able to sort of almost personify
Yeah.
their platform, and it's just in the vernacular now. It's like, well, have you put it through Dwayne-O?
Yep.
What does Dwayne sort of say about this? And so, the platform has kind of almost become this sort of unofficial, staff
Another
member,
team member,
right?
yeah.
It's just this all-knowing, not so much all-knowing, but knows a lot, sort of staff member. And so, essentially, there's other benefits too. The fact that we, could create our own application meant we could build a whole bunch of user analytics off the back of that.
Yep.
So we can basically let you guys know sort of how you're going.
I think that's one of the things that people, the leaderboard. I think,
Yeah.
people get a bit chuffed about whether they're up near the top of the leaderboard in terms of usage or otherwise.
And the other thing too is that data is sitting there, and we did a bit of sort of meta analysis of a whole bunch of the chats within one of our clients' environments, and it was really to sort of help us understand sort of how are all of the users using it. So we had this sort of summarization called chat intent that basically kind of said, summarize exactly what, this particular chat thread was. And we did this over 10,000 chats. And so we could sort of analyze that. We ended up writing a white paper about this as well. But all of that data is sitting there available. Essentially, if you for companies like yourself to mine at some stage if you want to. Now, I just don't know if you get the opportunity to do that if you're, with Microsoft or ChatGPT. I'm not even sure where that data resides, all those chats and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But we do know that with our platform, it's all sitting in a database that, you can get access to, with the sort of the right security privileges.
Yeah. And I think for, our clients, it's really important for them to understand as well that the product that we're using sits within our environment and is very secure, because you guys are making sure that there's boundaries as to what data goes out, and you work really closely with our IT team as well to make sure that everything is as secure as possible. So when we are putting client information into it, it isn't going out into wherever. As you said, you don't know where the Microsoft Copilot data is going. You don't necessarily know where the ChatGPT data is going. Yes, you can use more secure forums for those two products, but you still don't quite know where it's sitting, do you? Like you're a professional services firm, that's one of the really important parts of it, is that you guys say, no, it all sits here in our little bucket and nobody else can get into it.
Yeah. But, that I must say that it does come with some downsides.
Yeah, of course.
So, one of the things that we made a clear stance to say, okay, well, we want to make sure that we're, all of the Sidekick and WiseGuide, they're all powered by OpenAI, LLMs, basically because we're deploying all of these applications into regions that are in Australia, we have to actually wait for Microsoft Azure to basically be able to support those particular and deploy those particular models. So, and we get very excited when it's like all of a sudden, okay, now they've deployed O3 Mini, and within 24 hours we can spin that up and basically offer it out to you guys. But there's a whole host of other models that are that are deployed into the US or into regions of Europe and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we do. There are some frustrations we have at times, but we've sort of made this decision to offer a solution that gives everyone, all of our customers, that data sovereignty here in Australia. And I still think that what we're finding is these models are just, all of them are just getting better and better. And I think it's pretty incremental and marginal in terms of how much better is a response you're getting from the O3 Mini to the O4 Mini or something like that. And for us now, the next piece is really that integration, and we've worked with you guys on that. You were the first customer where we we're able to integrate into your SharePoint environment, so you can actually start to query, from within, the knowledge base assistant into your external or into your sort of SharePoint environment. And now we're starting to build integrations as well for HubSpot and Xero, and so it's now really starting to become a proper fully fledged workspace. And I think honestly, you guys were the ones that sort of helped really guide a lot of that vision. And I sort of had this bit of an aha moment where I could see that you were kind of going, we've got a whole bunch of disparate sort of systems, and sometimes you just want to be able to ask a question in natural language. And if we can start to use WiseGuide as that sort of portal to be able to do that, then hopefully it just provides a better experience for your staff. And so that has somewhat guided, how we've sort of started to sort of evolve the platform.
Yeah. There was an article that I was reading just before we came into the podcast, and I can't remember the exact numbers, but generally it was along the lines of that accounting firms, professional services firms, I'll say accounting firms because that's the one that I read most about because it's the main part of our business, but their application and innovation with regard to tech like this, not even to the point of AI, but even just to, innovate their own internal tech and, update to newer versions of product and things like that is really, really low. Like it's a really low number.
I think
one in
50% of firms haven't done serious changes in technology for 5 years.
So they're still using the same product that they were using, and they're only upgrading, in incremental stages. Yeah. Like if the product updates, then they will do a product update, but they won't look at their tech stack or anything like that in any sort of holistic way. And it was a really low number. How are you finding that the industry is either super keen and like throws everything at it, like we probably do a little bit, like on the phone to you or sending you an email going, can we do this now, Gus? What's the percentage of that for you? And are you getting lots of inquiry about, this from professional services?
It's definitely mixed.
Yeah.
We've got some clients that are, some of the larger sort of accounting firms are a little bit more progressive, and they've already, they're doing Copilot trials, and are considering sort of other sort of Microsoft tooling. Yeah. So we're working with a sort of mid-size accounting firm and building out some sort of specific sort of more complex use cases for them. But no, like I'd agree. I think there's definitely some accounting firms that, we've reached out to, and some of them that we're still sort of in discussions with, and they've pretty much said, listen, we haven't really done anything.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of them are sort of a little bit overwhelmed.
Yep.
Everyone's like, we know we need to start getting into this, but, we haven't, we just haven't really had the capacity. And a lot of the time it might be because, there's concerns around just the change fatigue, and it's like, well, we actually just, we just upgraded our ERP or our practice management system, and we need to kind of bed that in first. And it doesn't matter how many times I kind of go, listen, maybe this will even help. Like don't look at this as like
it's not another tool; it's an additional benefit to
exactly. It's and it's it's one of those things that. I'd be interested in hearing from you guys whether, was there any change impact associated with, implementing WiseGuide?
Not particularly, no.
It's probably, apart from the fact that, you guys, your attendance in all of the trainings is sort of exemplary. So there's a bit of a time sink there, but even then, what's that, 45 minutes, once a fortnight? Which is, we hope kind of time well spent.
Yeah.
It's, that apart from that, there shouldn't really be any lost productivity from implementing an AI platform.
Yeah.
It's there to help you do everything faster.
Great. That's it. Yeah. I mean, we've found, from an operational perspective, particularly with the tax agent regulations changing and having to bring in all sorts of different things that we have to do now as an accounting firm with regard to like quality management system and making sure that your procedures are robust. WiseGuide has actually saved us a significant amount of time and energy and effort with that, because you basically just type into WiseGuide, and with Julie and I have been working with the reasoning assistant over the last couple of days, and we're just sitting in our spaces going, this is incredible, because you can put a procedure that already exists into it and say, what is missing from this and how do I need to make it more robust and more compliant? And the reasoning assistant just gives you this list. It might take 30 seconds and it gives you this list. There was one I was working on yesterday and it probably saved me about 3.5 hours using WiseGuide to ask it to look at these various elements of whatever it was I was doing. And so there's no, like, in terms of has there been any productivity impact? Yes, there has, but it's been absolutely exponentially positive, because that's 3.5 hours that I didn't have to spend, trying to find the different elements of legislation and whatever else. So, my recommendation to any firm is that, you don't have to have a WiseGuide, although it is nice to have something that we know sits securely with us and is learning from what we put into it. But, we said to the team the other day, we're really lucky that we've got WiseGuide. But, do a paid ChatGPT subscription, a team one, so that you a bit secure. Just get people using it and see where the productivity benefits are.
I think part of it is that accountants are generally a very conservative bunch.
Yeah.
And because this is a fast-moving technology, they like to be considered and think, let's be patient and just let it get more mature before we then jump in. But they're going to be waiting a long time, aren't they?
Well, it's just going to get get better and better. And, I think what people fail to understand though is, the time it takes for you to get effective and proficient in being able to use. It's a powerful tool, but it's like we always sort of say, it's you put a power tool in someone's hands who doesn't know how to do it, they can, things can go wrong.
Yeah.
And it is a little bit the same. But I also really, part of the reason we sort of push for, all of our dojo customers to sort of really embrace the training is that it's not just about sort of teaching all of your staff how to use the tool more effectively, but a lot of it is really about just sort of starting to sort of change the mindset around how do I do my work?
Yep.
And hopefully starting to think about, well, how can we start to transform some of these processes? So, and some of that may be it needs, some sort of automation solution that's beyond what, a foundational sort of chatbot like WiseGuide does.
Yep.
But, it's really around sort of starting to build some culture, an innovative culture, and starting to think around efficiency and productivity and sort of how can I, free up more capacity to be able to do some of those more sort of higher value add tasks.
Yep. Absolutely.
Rather than just some of the lower value, more repetitive stuff.
Exactly.
And even though it's a cost to have something like WiseGuide for us, the return on investment based on the time saving is quite significant. So it's not just about the cost and also the other thing which we love about it is that, and I was going to ask you this question a little bit later, it's constantly evolving as we go anyway. So, this new feature, the reasoning tool came in. Andrea said to me, come and have a look at this, Shane, yesterday. So I did something in it and, that's cool. So then thinking, as you said, okay, what application how does this apply to me and what can I use this for to free up time or to provide better service to the clients?
Yeah. But the one thing I would say is the one frustration I have is it's very hard to probably actually quantify the ROI. Like, it's still, we've had a go at trying to do it, with one particular client, but it's one of those things that you're getting benefit. But it's hard to sort of put a number, a number on it.
And accountants do like to see
exactly
the number.
Exactly.
We, that's a gut feel for us, and we just know, and we know based on the team and the way we operate that there is absolutely a return on investment. Even to be honest with you, just for me, and you work out my charge out rate and the time that I'm saving. I can see the ROI.
Well, you put a number on Andrea's time, and she'd
Yeah,
say
absolutely.
3 hours.
Yes, exactly.
In
That's
one
substantial.
particular activity.
Yeah,
It's,
and that was just one procedure that I saved.
We don't want to
3
tell you how much time we're saving, because then you might think
You might-
maybe
you might
need to
charge
look
us
at
more for
repricing.
it.
Yeah.
I think it's like you said though, Gus, with this sort of thing, there's no change management involved in it. You don't have to bring in a whole range of fancy procedures, equipment, whatever. You need an AI policy that says use it this way and don't do some of these things. Make sure you're trained in it. So even if you do the very basic of the 45 minutes a fortnight for 6 months is going to give you enough training basically so that the team can use it. It's no different to implementing Xero or MYOB or any of those things. It's just another tool that you get to use to help you do things. It's not you don't have to just do any super amount of like training to use it. It's just like start typing in questions. Just learn how to make a basic prompt. And WiseGuide has now gone from being like work out a basic prompt yourself to here's a whole bunch of prompts that you can use, because as we go along, people are creating prompts. And so it's almost as though you say to someone, oh, just install this internet browser. That's what WiseGuide really is. It's just another like search functionality for us and the ability to use. So
A bit more than that, but yes.
no, of course. But in terms of
the
the process behind it and having
the change impact.
It's not a huge thing. It's not like implementing a new practice management system. Like that is a much, much bigger beast. As Shane said, development's all the time, and we had touched on this before we put the microphones on. You can almost wake up every morning and have some new thing come out with AI. How do you manage that from your business? Because no doubt you're getting people like me sending messages going, can we do this yet, Gus? How do you manage, number one, the client excitement over those things? And how do you say, okay, we've got to slow down a little bit because we don't want to do those things yet because we're not quite sure?
It's a constant battle.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, it does get a bit exhausting.
Yeah.
You look at, so OpenAI, last week came out with their ChatGPT agent.
Yep.
And you look at it and go, wow, it's now getting to the point where, you can actually delegate a whole bunch of tasks and it'll go off and it might take some time, but, that doesn't matter. You can go on with doing yourself. And, it's now creating documents. It's now being able to log into websites and all that sort of stuff. And, poor old Alistair, who's our sort of lead architect in this space, is sort of constantly looking at all this stuff too and kind of going, how long is that going to take for us to be able to implement it as well? And so, in terms of how do we prioritize all of this stuff, we kind of gauge the feedback that comes in from our customers, and Harrison from our team is the sort of the product lead as well. We sort of we work out what features do we think are going to be most beneficial. I still think we could do a better job of that. We should be polling you guys to go, if you had if there were 6 things that we could build, which ones what would be at the top of your list. Now there's certain things that are image generation isn't something that Sidekick does at the moment. And, I think we haven't had anyone sort of screaming out for that. Like I use it myself, but our sort of recommendation is if the marketing team need that, then get them some ChatGPT.
Yeah, exactly. Download a Canva and add it.
So it's one of those things that we're constantly thinking about. How do we sort of continue to keep pace where we can, but hopefully deliver the most value for all of our customers, because a lot of the stuff that does come out, particularly with ChatGPT, they kind of have this sort of more consumer first, I think approach, because they've
we want to get as many people
100 million daily active users. And so for us, it's really trying to understand which of these particular features make the most sense for businesses. And for us, it's, we're sort of tend to be in that more small to medium sized space as well. So But that being said, being able to have things like, we haven't probably discussed this, I think, in any dojo sessions with you, but MCP, which is Model Context Protocol, which is this new standard that's come out that was sort of developed by Anthropic, one of the big companies, and now a lot of the software providers are building their own sort of MCP service. So Xero has one, I think Carbon are building one.
Yep.
HubSpot, and it's basically we've now built an MCP client on our side that makes it very easy to actually start to get an assistant to be able to talk to some of those other particular systems, and so being able to get that integration working is one of these sort of new technologies that we've invested time in the last sort of few weeks just to be able to get that going. So from our perspective, the commitment is to continue to sort of invest in this platform, and but it's it's difficult to keep pace with some of these frontier AI companies that have got teams of developers that probably are counted in the hundreds.
Yeah, because when you and I first started this conversation about how it could work for us, one of the things that I said to you was that in the 20 years that we've been in business, we wanted to just have one source of truth for our data. That's the goal, and it still is the goal. And when we were talking at the time, there were a couple of other people in the room, and someone in that space said, it's about where your data is. It's about not what products you use. So it's about where the data sits and integrating something so that the data talks. And you talked about a data lake. It was the first time I'd ever heard of that concept being used, like a data lake. Everyone thinks of data as little filing cabinets, and you guys were saying, no. You think about your data as stuff inside this big lake, and it's about finding it, fishing for it and finding it. And getting a product that would actually do that. So an interface like WiseGuide, where you can type something in and it will look at all of your data everywhere and say, yep, here it is, I found it for you. And that at that point, that was when I came back out of that meeting, and I said to Shane, this is what we have to do, because we're never going to get the data we're never going to get a product that does everything for us. We're going to have to be able to build something around finding the data that we're looking for. And this was the only thing that I think could do it. You could sort of build a bot or something like that that would go and do these things and whatever. But when we were talking about it, it was about this being able to integrate with things, and the integrations are happening thick and fast, right? With this what you're talking about.
That's where Azure gives us that ability, because that's in effect that's part of the data lake, isn't it?
Yeah,
in a sense, yeah.
But it's really interesting. I think over the years, we've just historically, businesses have been very much just focused on we need this particular application to be able to do to support this particular function, and we might have an ERP, and data has always been sort of something that was just kind of reporting, right? And it's only, I think, since Gen AI has come along that what we've started to understand is that generative AI allows you to sort of unlock a whole bunch of value that potentially resides in that data.
Yeah.
Because it gives you this ability to start sort of asking questions and being able to do multi-step processes and all this sort of stuff. So all of a sudden, this light has been sort of shone on data, and the interesting thing is that you start to realize, oh, hang on a second, maybe our data isn't in as good a state as we think it is, and even with one of our customers yesterday, when we were testing their integration to HubSpot, and it was like, give me a list of all of the companies that don't have this particular attribute. Yep. And it just starts to list all of this stuff out, and you're like, okay, well, looks like we've got a little bit of data cleansing that needs to be done there as well. So, one thing I would say is that, developing stuff like data lakes, where you really start to centralize a whole bunch of data, is it's a pretty significant undertaking. If you know, one of our particular clients, it was, you know, and along the way, there's going to be some pain. There's going to be some need for data remediation, cleansing, that sort of stuff, which, you know, I think is, you know, probably what everyone should be doing, but you know, it still takes time and effort. And that equals cost as well. But you know, I think everyone needs to start thinking more about, you know, data in a new light, given you've got this, you know, these new AI capabilities that basically are unlocking your ability to be able to do knowledge retrieval and to be able to do a whole bunch of different sort of more sophisticated use cases with it.
Yeah. And that's where it can get really overwhelming for accounting firms in particular. I think there's a lot of historical information that has been, you know, back 20 years ago, we didn't actually care whether somebody had, you know, a particular coffee order that they would like. We didn't really worry about whether there was an email address. Sometimes we got an email address, sometimes we didn't, you know, all sorts of things. And that's where you say, like, getting a full picture of what is missing in your client data, we've got 20 years of old files because we've been electronic filing firm since day one. So we have 20 years of electronic files that are stored now in SharePoint in various ways. And the way you used to store them 20 years ago is not the way you would store them now. And we, you know, talking about this the other day, that you used to have to set up a Windows Explorer. It was based on Windows Explorer.
And
we used the MYOB
product
or Solution 6 product that they had for electronic filing at that time. You set it up in a folder with the client name as the folder, and then inside that folder there were other folders, and then inside those folders there were some other folders. Where you don't need to do that now with data, do you? You can save it in a much more generic way, and things like AI can help you find it without having to say, oh, it's in this permanent directory, it's in this, you know, corporate compliance file or whatever. So accounting firms have just got this, they've got to actually think about it in a completely different way, right? And it's
that's the knowledge-based concept that we have within Sidekick, and you know, now that we've just sort of built the integration into SharePoint, I'm still grappling a little bit with this myself because, you know, part of the strategy around creating this knowledge base was saying, okay, we want to create this secure area where you can drop a whole bunch of documents that sort of reside within the sort of the application within Azure, and these are your pristine, approved, latest versions of all of those policy documents, and could be other sort of project-related, client-related sort of documents. But this is the gold sort of standard that you know, when you're querying it using our knowledge base assistant, you're always going to get returned, you know, the most relevant. Now that we're integrating into SharePoint, you know, I'm not quite sure how that works. I often say to people, like, I think about our SharePoint, it sort of reminds me of my son's bedrooms. It's a bit of a mess, right? And so, you know, you've got to, just need to be careful around sort of how that knowledge retrieval is occurring, where you're hitting sort of sections of your SharePoint where multiple versions of documents might exist.
That will be a challenge, and that's again where that data cleansing or cleanup might be required as part of the process.
A bigger process. We'll finish off with a question about where you think AI is heading in the next 12 months. What do you think are going to be the points at which people will have those aha moments, and particularly with professional services firms that may not be they may be dabbling in things, or the directors might have, you know, a ChatGPT on their phone or something. What do you think is going to happen in the professional services landscape that really will change the way accounting firms generally view it? Because we had a situation where Xero came onto the market, and the whole industry exploded with everyone's using Xero. What's going to be what do you think is the next 12 months for that, and how does AI fit into that for you?
I think I was just literally having this conversation this morning with the team. I think what we're going to find is that there's going to become this sort of, I call it like a battleground for user attention.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we're going to have is the emergence where pretty much all of your sort of line of business systems, whether it's Xero, Carbon, NetSuite, all of them, everyone's going to have AI embedded within it, and you're going to be able to hopefully do more, do things faster within there. You're going to have your own sort of foundation chatbot, which allows you to, continue to sort of draft emails and analyze documents and do a whole bunch of stuff that we can sort of offer today. And I think somewhere in the middle is these agents that are going to start emerging, where you're going to be able to start delegating sort of tasks, and they'll go off and do stuff, and they'll come back at the end and go, "Do you want to check this? Do you want to, is there anything you want to do? You want to approve before I do execution of the task." So I think it's I can see how it's for a lot of companies and for a lot of workers, it's going to become a little bit confusing, and it's going to become a little bit busy. And I'm not quite sure. I think having an AI strategy where you can start to sort of work through, what those sort of workflows need to look like, and where you're going to sort of be training your staff or instructing your staff, this is how you should be using AI in these particular cases, will get more and more sort of relevant. So it's, I think it's going to be an exciting time, but I think, I still think it's going to be a little bit chaotic. And, I think we're still going to face the same challenges that we face today, which is just making sure that AI is being used sort of responsibly. Still making sure that AI is actually, returning the information, the correct information. Like as smart as these models are, you still sometimes will get a bum steer, and it'll give you advice that might have been incorrect or outdated or something like that as well. So we still need to be vigilant and continue to sort of practice how we use AI and where and when we use it.
It still needs oversight. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think we've, had those conversations as well, and you've certainly brought it up in the dojo sessions with the team that, it's a really good assistant, but like any assistant or any intern or whatever level, you've got to check what comes out of it to make sure that you are happy with the information that it's telling you, because you can't, we've seen situations where people have put court proceedings in and it's made up cases and stuff like that. So those things do happen.
But the flip side of that is that, I had a chat with, the CEO of one of our customers the other day, and he said that, they gave some clients some wrong advice. And he took that advice and put it into, their AI platform and got a different result that probably was the correct advice. So, he's now instructing his team to make sure that, any advice that's issued needs to be
put it through.
At least put it through and validate it. And then if there is any sort of discrepancies, that's when you sort of work through what they are. As we know that these AI models are still fallible, but they're also getting very, very good. And increasingly, if you look at all the benchmarks, they're starting to get to the point where they can, go beyond human abilities in specific domains. And
that was what I found with the reasoning assistant when I used it the other day. It was actually bringing up and providing links to the legislation and this and this and this, so you can actually find it. Which even 2 months ago we weren't doing that. You were putting it through our general chat and getting info, but now it's much more detailed. The research that it can do is very cool. Cool.
It's I think there's a lot more nuance there. They've been training these models on sort of additional data, and I think you'll find that you're probably also the way you're instructing and interacting
We're
with the
getting
model
better at
is improving as well.
That's important. Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. Thank you so much for coming in today and sharing this with us, Gus. Like we said before we went on air, there's going to be many more conversations like this because this area is moving so fast, and even what we're doing now, no doubt in 3 and 6 months' time, it's going to be different to what it is now, or there's going to be something better. Shane is desperately hoping that Wise Guide will have a voice assistant very soon, so that he can talk to it, which I've told him to just calm down on. But
I had this conversation with Alistair earlier in the week, and he's kind of like. He's like, Gus, we can, but it's a totally different type of model. It's so yeah. But
right, I'll be patient.
Yeah. But honestly, thanks for having me.
No, thank you so much.
Very, very happy to come back.
We'll definitely have you come back. There's so much to talk about with this sort of stuff because I think, we had a conversation with another accounting firm the other day, and they actually said to Shane, we know we've got to get started with this. It's just really overwhelming to have to think about what is the first thing that we can do. And so, the conversations around, what are the steps for a basic, beginner platform, et cetera, we'll have you come back and do another episode because we could probably cover 45 minutes every fortnight like you do for us in AI Dojo. Maybe we should just turn AI Dojo into a podcast episode every week. Maybe you guys could do that. Thanks again so much for coming in, Gus, and thank you for joining us on this episode of Q&A with S&A. We will share all of Gus's details on the podcast info as we usually do so that you can get in touch with Gus if you've got an interest in finding out what Propella.ai do. So thanks so much, Gus.
Great.
Welcome.